I am very excited about this episode because I get to share a bit of my story. But before I do that, I want to welcome you, those who are in the diaspora and those who are in Africa and our international friends. Welcome to the Dreamers and Doers Podcast. Last episode, spoke about teachability, but I thought, let me pull back from the teachings a little bit, and let me tell you a little bit about who I am. And I know I spoke about ImagineX and why ImagineX and whatnot, and I told you a little bit of a snippet of my story, but I want to start from the beginning. I want you to know who I am and why I I might have a say in the African conversation. And yeah, I know not everybody who's got this skin color can just yap about anything, but I want to tell you just where I come from, what my story is. It's a little bit more personable and why and how I got to be where I am today, and the stage I'm at in life today. So, yeah, let me start from the actual beginning. So, I don't know if you already know, or maybe there's an accent here, but I'm actually Burundian. I'm from Burundi. I was born in Burundi in the mid 90s. So I was actually born during the Burundian genocide in the mid 90s, right there in Burundi, and we ended up in the refugee camp in Tanzania. So we left Burundi when I was 8 months old. And so we left there and then we moved over to Burundi. Like my dad has an amazing story, a very touching story. Maybe one day I might be able to get him here, if possible, to kind of tell a little bit about what that journey must have been like. I've heard stories and they're amazing stories. I think they are stories that really deserve movies. I know many people who have gone through the genocide have amazing stories, very touching stories that you could make movie after movie after movie of people's experience during that time. But me, I was just there chilling. I was a little baby just there chilling. We managed to cross over and get taken care of at the refugee camp. And so I grew up in a refugee camp for probably 8 years. So I was there. My childhood experience was pretty much like in a little bubble of a community. I remember we had one shopping center. That shopping center had just evolved into just a little market thing where people were very creative. After 8 years being in a refugee camp, you kind of start building some sort of like systems and structures. So, I remember, going to the movies to watch Jackie Chan, but the movies was literally just like a lounge room with a project. Somebody who had managed to get a projector, and we would watch Jackie Chan and Chuck Norris. I remember those things. I remember going to church. My family was actually Anglican. So my father was Anglican, and we were going to an Anglican church. And I remember when that switch happened. I don't remember how old I was, but I probably was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly. But I remember when that switch happened, and it's something that will never leave me because yes, I do understand denominations, and it's not about Pentecostalism is better than Anglicanism or whatever. But there was an experience that my dad had where he had an encounter with God and got baptized in the Holy Ghost, as Pentecostals say. And he really had a radical life change. And it's not for me to tell you his story, but it transformed who he was as a person, and maybe some family dysfunctions that were there, honestly, almost instantly removed. And it was powerful. And I remember as a kid witnessing that and that transformation, and it was amazing. Literally, I think from memory, the Anglican church was literally a walking distance from the new church that we went to. So it was a Pentecostal church. So he switched over. He converted from Anglicanism, but he actually still admires the Anglicans. He admires them so much. He loves the sound teaching and all that kind of stuff. But it's just that little piece missing of the Holy Ghost. I remember that experience. I'm just trying to think of like some like really key moments in my life. I mean, obviously, not everything was great. I'm just pointing out all the good stuff. I've had some experiences in my own childhood that really changed the trajectory of my life, and I'm not really gonna share that at this current stage of my journey with you guys. But yeah, so I've had some good times, some bad times. Yeah, so my father, I remember as a kid, I actually didn't like Sunday school. I loved the big church. I love in the main service. I would always avoid going to Sunday school. I hated it. I loved tithing. I remember that. But for me as a kid, growing up in this refugee camp, I would say that I was always still just very, very curious about things. For example, like I said, I wanted to grow up. I didn't want to get involved with all the kids and whatnot, because I thought, to me, I'm grown. Why am I gonna go and play with some kids when I could be in big church and listen to the word? And yeah, and there's this story that I want to connect to me coming to Australia, and that is, it happened in church where this pastor, I still remember him. He lives in Perth, Australia. He managed to come here as well. This pastor, very key pastor, very influential pastor in that refugee camp at the time. He had a word of prophecy and said that God is about to open doors for refugees to come through to the Western countries. And the prophecy came, the gospel came to Africa through the missionaries. The gospel came to Africa through the missionaries. And by the way, I've learned enough history to know that the gospel was already in Africa. But this is not a podcast about Christianity and whatnot. It's just about my story. But there was a revival and a renewal of the gospel through missionaries back then. And God is about to send us back to the missions, to where the missionaries stay, and we're going to remind them of the gospel they came to remind us of. So that was the prophecy, and God's going to use us mightily in those countries. And yeah, and they said, look, those who want to see that happen and who want that opportunity and who feel the calling for that. So according to I don't remember this myself, but according to the pastor, I had a conversation with him. According to my parents, I was one of not many adults came to the front. Mainly kids came to the front, and I was one of the kids who was like, look, I hear about this revival. I want to go. And so I got prayed over, and we came over to this country eventually. Yeah, I was, I think, turning 9 or already 9 when we came over to Australia. It was a very interesting experience. And I'll tell you this, but I'll go back a little bit just to kind of tell you why I shared that story. I believe that something about me in that little story, whether it's me wanting to stay in big church, in the big people church, or me going up to the front. I think that is a testament of how I just have this, maybe it's a gift of faith. And I know I've spoken about faith before and what faith is. I think maybe I had a gift of faith as a kid, from the very beginning, where just that kind of naivety of the faith of a child. And I feel like I still have that, where I believe I can do anything, and that's the lesson in that, right? Like, don't lose your childhood faith. Don't lose your childhood zeal where you used to believe that you can do anything. As a child, you don't have people telling you, that's impossible, that's impossible. I want to tell you, hey, you can achieve anything. They used to say that the sky is the limit, but the sky is not the limit. You can break through the sky too. If you look at the technological advancements that have happened, that's people breaking through the sky. Whatever you thought was impossible, make it possible. And that requires a faith. That requires a belief. That requires this thing called faith that only kids have. Like this naive kind of faith where you don't need the facts to believe that this is impossible. And so, yeah, I had that kind of faith, and I want to encourage you and remind you of that, and I remind myself of that too. I believe that I have probably consistently been like that, and I've made some crazy decisions just out of that, childlike faith. And one thing, regardless of all the mistakes I've made trying to go for the childlike faith, I am not backing down, regardless of the things that might tell me, hey, think about wisdom, think about, the reality of things, no, I'm still going to believe that anything is possible. So don't stop believing that anything is possible, because anything is possible. I was in one big city in Sydney, Australia last week with my wife, and I was looking at the skyscrapers, in the city of Sydney. We stayed up there, in the city area, and I was like, man. I was thinking about how they could have built these skyscrapers. I'm like, it's just, man, like it's just a guy, like people with skin like mine were able to find and engineer ways to get deep down into the ground and build something that's stable enough to hold something up that goes all the way up there. I'm like, man. These are people who believe that anything is possible, and the sky is not the limit. You can break through the sky. You can go beyond the skies. And so, yeah, I was like, man, like the faith it took for somebody to be like, you know what? One story is not enough. Maybe let's try two. And then somebody's like, I believe you can do 10. What's gonna take for us to do 10? Maybe for it to be stable, we have to like build the foundations like, maybe 3 times deeper than that. But now we're gonna do it. Let's try. And then somebody goes, let's try 30 stories. I think you need to beat that. I wanna encourage you. Like, in your journey right now, where you are, play this little healthy competition where you're not necessarily competing with people, you are competing with ideas. Whatever people have believed in the current stage where they're at, be like, nah, I think I can do more than this. I believe I can earn more than this. I believe that, look, enough is enough. I'm not gonna live paycheck to paycheck. I'm not gonna live just with coins left in my hands. I'm gonna build something. I'm gonna get to a better place. Stop believing that your circumstance right now is the only thing that there is. There is more. Stop believing that there is more. So like, and another dude was like, hey, I think I could probably do 50 stories. So yeah, don't stop believing. Don't stop believing that anything is possible. And it takes that childlike faith. The faith that says, you know what, I'm grown. The childlike faith that says, I'm going to go to the front and believe for whatever these people are believing. I don't fully understand it, but if it's an opportunity, I want to jump at it. So yeah, that was a part of my story, and then we moved over to Australia. And that was very interesting time. Again, I'm gonna spare you the bad stories, but it became very interesting where I I managed to uh, get involved in church. I remember, I got saved in this church called Jesus Family Church, and actually last weekend I visited that church. I got saved there. I got taught the word there, and we were in this little cell groups in that church. I remember school. I remember having influence, even though I was a new kid. I remember having influence. We were only in that specific city, so we were in Sydney first when we came over to Australia, and I remember being in that city, and it was primary school, and I ended up becoming some sort of leader, or maybe like a prefect or something, the prefect of the school or something like that. I do not understand how I ended up there. After 2 years, I remember when we moved cities and I had to leave the school, I was given the opportunity to have a speech at the assembly and tell everybody, hey, thank you so much. We're going to move schools now and all that kind of stuff. It was very interesting. And you know what's crazy about that is that I had a terrible speech impediment during that time. I don't know why specifically, but I had struggled to speak as a kid, and I had this terrible stutter by the age of 10, because it took me a while to even speak. And by the age of 10, I still had that terrible stutter. And I was joking with my wife because we were in Sydney, and I was just reminiscing on my childhood. And I was telling her this joke that the bees were crazy. We couldn't do the b b b, and the p's, oh my gosh, the p's and the d's were crazy. And I told my wife the worst one was the W. Man, because the B's, you could kind of like, if you like wanted to say, you could kind of like pretend that you weren't going to say anything. You were just, maybe moving your mouth a little bit. However, the W's are the ones that you just open your mouth already. Your mouth is already open. It's like, oh, you're already doing this, so you can't really hide it. And the whoa, 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 oh, that was terrible. The W's were terrible. But anyways, I had this terrible stutter or stammer. I don't know what you call it. But I don't know how I still ended up on student leadership as a little 10-year-old with a stammer, and who also wet my pants because I was struggling with the English language and I had a speech impediment. I do not know how I ended up at that seat. But again, it comes to the childlike faith. For some reason, even like I was blind to my own to my own disabilities. I was blind to my own disabilities because I believed that I could do anything. I believed that I could do anything, that nothing was impossible for me. So, do I have a speech impediment? Yes. But I can be on the student board and, in fact, become the school prefect. It doesn't matter, right? So I don't know how I ended up doing that, but that's how I ended up in less than 2 years being in Australia, still struggling with the English language. I still ended up on the leadership board, the student leadership. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Believe that you can achieve anything. Believe that there is no limit at all, no limit at all to what you can achieve. So yeah, and then I did my primary school, and I remember so many different things that I would say part of who I am has been shaped by faith. And I know when I say faith, now I'm talking about the Christian faith. And I know that you're going to be able to recognize that because, you know, at this early stage of me sharing what I'm sharing, I'm pretty open, and I don't think I'll stop being open. But you can tell that my upbringing has shaped every small thing in regards to who I am, my mindset. It's shaped who I am. And let me tell you this, if you're going to be shaped by anything, at least be shaped by the manual that we were given by the one who created you. Like, that's just something I would encourage you. If you're going to be shaped by anything, be shaped by, you can go and read all the books that you want, but try the Bible, try the manual that you were given to navigate your own life by your creator. So that is something that shaped me, I would say. So the first thing in regards to me sharing this story is childlike faith. The second thing is things that shape you, the things that shape who you are and your mindset. And for me, that was being raised in this Christian environment, going to church. I enjoyed cell groups. I enjoyed learning the word. I was a very radical kid when I got saved. And I loved reading the word. I had this youth Bible, and I would just eat it up, and I was shaped by it, and I'll give you an example of that. Like, I remember the first time I heard the preaching, and I think I know now the reason why it leaped in me. It was because I think I was already living it, and it was one preacher who preached on this word that, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things are possible, like all of that. And I remember hearing that for the first time as a kid, and that stirred me. And I know why it stirred me. It was because I was already living it. I think I already believed it before I heard it. And so something like that shapes me. And if you grow up around an environment where you are told, hey, you can do anything, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, all things are possible through God. And, if you are raised around that, it shapes who you become. And so that's what shaped me, the word, that's what shaped me, the environment I was in. So what shaped me. And the third thing I want to tell you about my journey is my birthdays. I want to tell you a little bit about my birthdays. So I loved my birthdays. I still love my birthdays. And I wish I still had that childlike thing when it comes to my birthdays. And that is, every single time it would be my birthday, I would choose something to stop doing that was childish. So, for example, I think like the best example would be the TV shows that we would watch. So, when you're a baby, you watch these baby shows, and then by the age of 10, maybe you're watching The Simpsons and all these kids TV shows. I remember, like, at every single birthday, as I grew up from a kid to a teenager, and all through my teenage years, there is something that was part of that age that I would be like, nah, I'm not gonna watch that anymore. And that would be the symbol of me going to another level. I don't know where I got that from. I have no idea where I got that from. I don't know where I heard it from. I don't know where I learned it from. But I remember I would do that. I would be like, maybe it was one uncle who just, told me to grow up. But I would leave a show. I would leave something. I would leave a toy. I would leave something. At every stage of my birthday, I would leave something that was childish, that now I'm entering, maybe now if I'm 10, I'm 11. Now I'm not going to watch The Simpsons anymore. I'm not going to watch Ben 10 anymore. I'm not going to watch all of these I'm not a child anymore. And you know what? I also stopped wearing pants at some stage. I mean, not pants. Yes, I'm still wearing pants. I stopped wearing shorts. I think I was around 11 when I stopped wearing shorts. I'm like, nah, I'm grown. I'm grown now. Like, shorts are for kids. Now I'm 11. I'm 11. I'm going to wear pants. I'm going to start wearing suits. And as a teenager, I started wearing proper suits because to me, you grow up. You grow out of your old ways into your new ways. And that's something that I could probably live with you with that. Learn to grow up. Learn to grow up. Learn to grow up. Learn to leave things behind that are no longer on your level. And I know, I know there are side effects to that for me because I stopped being a kid even though I was a kid. So I wouldn't encourage kids to grow up that fast like I did. But as a principle with your work and you're trying to build a business, you're trying to grow in your leadership, learn to grow up. And sometimes what growing up looks like is leaving things behind and picking up some new things. There are some childish ways in your leadership that needs to go. There are some childish emotional behaviors that are in your childishness that need to go. You leave immaturity, you pick up maturity, And so I want to encourage you with that. Make sure you grow up. Make sure that you find a way to grow up. You find a way to build some sort of system where you're like, if I get to this level, I'm going to leave. Hey, grow up and leave some friends behind. There are some friends that are no longer on your level. You need to grow up. So let me encourage you with that. Grow up. So I went through all of my teenage years, and I grew up very, very fast. Very, very fast. To the point where I started understanding my purpose at a very young age. I started thinking about business at a very young age. I remember being in high school and we were doing these lessons. I'm like, man, this could be a business I could start. And something else in another class, I'm like, this could be a business I could start. And I started listening to Miles Monroe as a teenager. Dr. Miles Monroe as a teenager. And man, that manship, like on top of being raised in church, I was raised by Dr. Miles Monroe. And I remember as a teenager, and like I remember listening to something that they would say something like, work on your job during the day and then work on your work, during the night. And I would start planning, things and coming up with ideas. I released my first album as a kid at the age of 14. And then after that, my first album launch, I made about 3,000 Australian dollars. And then I bought some studio equipment and I opened my first business, which was a recording studio at the age of 15. From there, I started teaching music, made a little bit of money. And then by the time I finished high school, I had started this little media company. And so when I say all this, they weren't successful businesses, by the way, but it was just this belief that I could do something with my life. And Dr. Miles Monroe played a very key role in my life. And so I would listen, I would go for drives. I remember all of these books about success and prosperity. And man, I grew up on that stuff. And even though I wasn't necessarily doing well, but there is something that he did. Jim Rohn was another one. I would listen to Jim Rohn for days. So 4 hours drive. I didn't listen to music. I just listened to audiobooks and messages by Dr. Miles Monroe, Jim Rohn, and all of that stuff. And so I would drive 4 hours and 4 hours back. If I ever drove to Melbourne, 9 hours, I would drive 9 hours. And I would be listening to Jim Rohn, Think and Grow Rich, Dr. Miles Monroe. And that was how my teenage years was like. Man, I started building little projects here and there. So yeah, and by the age of 19, I had started my own ministry, my own Christian ministry. It was like a worship team, a worship band. And I just started believing for God to do something. I remember seeing South Africa and all of these amazing big concerts in stadiums. And I'm like, man, why can't that happen here in Australia? So I started this ministry and we started believing for big things to happen. And so I don't know, maybe it's the gift of faith that I have. But though it's a gift to some, because people who have that gift, they cannot shake it, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, they cannot shake it. But hey, the gift of faith is for everybody. You need faith in your life. You need to believe that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. Anything. Whatever dream that you might have. I want you to take this moment and kind of think about what dream do you have? Tell me, like, think about something that you've put aside and you're like, man, I wish I could do this one day. This is like, think about that. Whatever that is, it's possible. It's possible. For me, I would say the fruits of me having that kind of upbringing and listening to all those books are only kind of manifesting now. However, the reason why, to a degree, eventually they have manifested is because I, by faith, stepped out. And stepping out does not mean you have to now start that business and what. No, stepping out means taking the first step to whatever gets you closer to that. So like you think that, one day I'm going to maybe start that. One day, and then you put that thing on the side. It may never happen. The reason why it may never happen is because you have actually quenched your faith. So therefore, you are allowing yourself to just live that life of mediocrity. And mediocrity is the thing that kills people. Let me tell you why mediocrity kills people. The reason why it kills people is because life is short. Years go by so quickly. Just think about it. When was the last time? So whatever that dream is, for some of you, it was 10 years ago when that popped into your heart. And if you're honest to yourself and you look back, it's been 10 years and those years has gone by so fast and you're not even one step forward towards that goal and dream. Why can't today be the day? If you're listening to this, why can't today be the day that you say, enough is enough. I am going to pick up and dust off that dream that I had and I'm going to start. And if that's you, one thing that I can say, looking at my life, I think I've only shared with you from birth to my 20s. Now I'm 30. There's been a gap of 10 years. A lot has happened. But I can tell you from my own experience that mediocrity will eat away at your time. And you wake up one day, you're 70 years old, and you never picked up that dream. I can guarantee you that. I can tell you I should have been doing this 8 years ago. What I'm doing right now, I should have been doing this 8 years ago. But I still had to deal with my doubts. I believed that I can achieve anything. I believed I could do anything, but I waited for approval. I waited to be approved by people. I waited. No. Mediocrity and this thing called approval, nah. Go for it. Whatever dream that you might have, go for it. Let me encourage you. Mediocrity will kill you. If you don't pick up that, it's either you pick up mediocrity or you pick up your dream. Which one is it? Your dream will keep you alive. Mediocrity will kill you. Will slowly kill you. One day I am telling you, you don't know how many gentlemen in their 60s and 70s and 80s I have spoken to who just let years go by. And I have learned from their mistakes. I am not going to let my years go by without doing anything. For some people, they may be like, David, why are you being so radical? Why are you believing for 1 million entrepreneurs and leaders to be raised by 2040? Why are you being so radical? I'm being so radical because I don't have time. 2040, I'm going to be 45 years old. And God knows I want to retire by 45. So I don't have much time. Would I rather say, nah, I'll wait. It's impossible for Africans to change their minds. It's impossible for Africa, that poverty mindset to be changed in 15 years. It's impossible. They have been chained for a very long time. It's important. No, I'm going to live for 1 million entrepreneurs and leaders to be raised across Africa by 2040. And it's going to happen because I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. All things are possible. Those are things I grew up with. Those are beliefs that I grew up with. Though Africa may be, in general, a majority Christian country, though we are raised with that, the thing that stops us is that we believe in God and we believe God, but we struggle with trust. The reason why we struggle with trust is because we're looking at the reality of our current situation and we're looking at the reality of the past. It takes faith to break through and look into the future and say, I can do it. I am going to do what I've never seen happen. I have never seen addiction break in my family, but I'm going to see it. I have never seen more than 10,000 US dollars in my bank account, but I will see it. I have never seen a week or a month where I did not lack, but I'm going to see it. Don't base your life on what's behind you, and don't base your life on your current situation. Have faith and break through that and see what has never happened in your life and believe for it and trust for it. Oh, man. I'm so excited for you. I'm honestly very, very excited for you. And if you want to walk that journey with me and with us, please be part of our little community. Be part of our community. Be one in a million. Be one in a million and choose to say enough is enough. I'm no longer going to live in poverty, and I'm going to believe that the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. So join our community. We have built ImagineX Africa just so that we can help you lift your hands, raise you up to become everything that you were created to be. So join us. Head over to www.imaginex.africa. Join our community. We're going to start gathering every fortnight. Join us. Join us so that we can believe again for something to happen. We can have that childlike faith so that you can come under teachings, come under a community where you be cultivated to become a better you. Come. But anyways, that's my story. It's a little bit about my story. And I believe that I just turned 30 last month, and I'm just writing a new story that I'm going to share with you in 2040. I can't wait for that time. And there will be 1 million of you in one room, and we are going to have a good time looking back to what has happened from now until then. So why not become part of who we are? Thank you so much. I'm very excited for this. This is episode 6, a little bit about my story. And I hope it has encouraged you. I hope, you got something from this. I wanted to share this because I was in Sydney where, I had a bit of my childhood there, and I was so excited. I was showing my wife around everywhere. And so I thought, man, I want to tell people my story. I want to tell people how I ended up, the crazy that I ended up to be. But yeah, so that's a little bit about myself. And please stick around next week for the next episode of Dreamers and Doers. And make sure you head over to our little community, ImagineX.Africa. Join us. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next episode.